Today I was asked to speak about meditation. So many videos were posted, so many people talk about meditation, psychology, neuroscience, all other sciences that study brain, human consciousness, psychology, speculate about meditation. Religions talk about meditation, but it seems like no one has that experience of meditation. So the question is meditation a practice? And the answer to this is no. Meditation is not a practice. Absorption is not a practice. So why did we then create all these different spiritual misconceptions and practices? Is because of lack of experience. Because all the spiritual teachings, or almost all the spiritual teachings and famous lineages, lost the transmissive power, lost the experience. So the remembrance about the fact that one is able to perceive their true essence is there, but the experience is not. So let's take a look at what meditation is not. And first of all, it is not an action. You cannot practice it, no matter how and who tells you that by sitting with eyes closed and hands in a certain mudra or position, you are meditating. You cannot meditate. You can only be meditation. The same notion applies to yoga. You cannot practice yoga because yoga is not about the exercises. And in true Siddha teachings, it is a known fact because everything can be experienced only when there is deep absorption and awareness of the self. The self is the subtle being, is the reason for the body, the reason for the karma. Karma is the body. So, does karma meditate? Karma cannot meditate, but the mind, which is physical and subtle at the same time, or the mind that is subtle but extends into the physical in the form of the body, in the form of karma, can turn within and become aware of the subtle. It means that the mind, when turned within, dwells in its own essence. The mind always projects itself outwards through its conscious power. So the mind or consciousness, these are just synonyms. Consciousness or mind consciousness, individual mind consciousness, projects itself outwards and clings to different objects outwards. Now, meditation means when that conscious power turned within and dwells in itself. So meditation is not just peace, is not just some vibration. So meditation is an absolutely absorbed in itself being where there is only blissful emptiness. Yet it is not registered from outside. There is absolute perception and awareness of the self being the self, being that subtle being, which is blissful emptiness. You cannot know meditation. You cannot be meditation. You cannot know yoga. You cannot be yoga. You cannot know awakening. You cannot be awakening unless there is a direct experience. So true awakening is then and only then when there is direct experience of yoga. In other words, direct experience of equanimity, absorption into self, meditation, samadhi, all are just synonyms. So when people say and make business on that meditation is this and that, they offer you different ways to experience meditation. None of these ways will lead to actual awakening and experiential absorption. So let's take a look. I've heard that people say that meditation means concentration on something, concentration on God, on a picture. These are complete misconceptions, because if your mind at the moment concentrates, say, on problems or on emotions or experiencing turmoil, then you offer it to concentrate on something else. Now it's busy with that. What kind of meditation is this? It's an escapism. Now, whatever the New Age and religions call as meditation or meditative practices are all methods to escape. They are not methods to experience direct, natural being. Or in Taoist, it would be natural mind. Siddha teaching, essence, absorption of self, Laya. So these practices lead to nothing, not in a good sense to nothing, but they mislead the adepts and seekers because they do not have any seed of natural being. They are speculations, they are escapist models for the mind. So the first one is visualization. When you try to visualize something, what are you employing? Again, the mind. The mind, again, is projecting its conscious power, empowering something outside of self, creating altered egos, identities, reconnecting with sub-realities. Besides this illusion, with some sub-illusions. True meditation is the fruit of one's unconditional being, refined being. So, and this is natural. It should be spontaneous there at all time. When you just turn within and you perceive, and this perception is absolutely content, wholesome, yet it's blissful and empty. It's empty for the world. There is no world there. There is no creation. The mind dwells on its own essence. That's meditation. And there are depth to this absorption. Now, we have these visualizations. People visualize. They use and apply the mind for connecting to sub-illusional realms. So it becomes a certain occult practice. Meditation is natural being. But through that natural being, or once you dwell in that natural being, you see everything which is transitory and everything which is not you. By refining yourself and thus your karma, which means your body, you realize the principle of materialization, dematerialization, coming to this creation and the way to decreate yourself. You realize the illusion. Yes, through that we know what the illusion is. That's the way to learn. But before we have that experience, before we are the meditation, the absorption, the samadhi, we cannot know who we truly are and what this all reality and creation are about. So samadhi, absorption or meditation, whatever term you want to use, dhyan, I mean by meditation, from Siddha teaching, before you know, before you become that, you cannot know. So these are the tools. Dhyan, Samadhi, equanimity, these are the tools to understand and deepen your realization about self, about the creation and different facets of this illusion. Now, when you are just visualizing, you're using the faculty of your brain, which is called imagination. Now, there is another aspect, guided meditation. What is guided meditation? Let's say, again, you are concentrated on problems, and now someone starts guiding. Look at the sun, look at the moon. Definitely, they take you out of the mundane, but just onto another trip. It's an escapist plan, escaping from reality. So all our understanding, the current understanding as I see it, from all this, what I've seen and what people ask me, the current understanding of meditation, samadhi, absorption, is some sort of an escapist plan, escapism out of reality. All our spirituality is escapist spirituality. We cannot sit on our couch and be, but we are ready to pay a lot of money to go on pilgrimage or to go to some temple and hope, or in hope, to get some kind of an experience. If you cannot get experience here and now, if you are not that experience, then there is nowhere else you can get that. Not in a cave, not in a forest, not by doing all these nonsensical practices. So, guided meditation with music, the same thing, tuning to music, tuning to different musical instruments, the same thing. The mind starts following, but it projects itself and associates with that. Some people say that, oh, the concentration, visualization, tuning is for transcending it. Through self-forgetfulness. People use drumming, people use tribal practices, use drugs. So they try to escape into so-called trance states, which they consider as meditative states. Yet, and say that this was such a mind-blowing, conscious, expanding experience. Yet what they have experienced is just another dimensions of this conscious reality, or the illusional reality, sub-illusional realities. So the conscious power just projected into that realm, or open to perception. Now, all these drummings and all these tribal practices are for the sake of possession. The person achieves some kind of a spiritual power or understanding, realization, by offering its body to be possessed by another subtle entity. So they as an individual entity are not evolved, because they are not that absorption vibration yoga. They use the medium, and they themselves know something, learn something through the medium, through the subtle medium, becoming, through the possession, becoming a home to some other entity. The same goes with meditative trances or certain experiences induced by drugs. One becomes or can open themselves to different paranormal phenomena, or different sub-illusional subtle entities that through this drug-induced state may possess their body, and they experience something. Now, these kind of experiences are temporary, and everything which is temporary means it's not you. It's an experience of possession that usually leads to different kind of psychotic episodes or some other occult entanglements. because one opens this link to the sub-reality without being themselves a realized light entity, which knows their natural being. To know natural being and meaning of self means to be that meditation, to be that samadhi, to be constant emanation of that, not sitting in meditative pose, coming out of it and escaping again into reality of the gross emotional reality, again going back somewhere. This is not being. And integration means that you are that being, you are that blissful emptiness, you are absorbed, yet you're aware, and your body is able to also, in an awakened state as well, or in a dream state, maintain that being. The other thing is, when people watch something, is meditation hypnosis? Well, the mind naturally falls into kind of a slight meditative absorbed state when it's captured or captivated by something through observation. But it is a glimpse. It is stimulated from outside. That's why industry of entertainment is so popular. People are ready to watch nice talks, spiritual talks, watch something on TV. Because at that moment, the mind reduces the waves. The waves become more subtle, but that is not meditation. That is just kind of a bit reducing the brain waves, so they are less active. Mantras. Many people use mantras and say, okay, when I chant this mantra, I am meditating. No, you're not meditating. You are concentrating on something, and through that concentration, you are trying to forget about yourself. And that self is that corrupt self. And you might get a certain glimpse of your subtle being. But it's not an integrated process. And you have to be really initiated to know how to use this kind of tools. But most of the mantras are keys to the creation. First, you have to know your natural being. You have to awake to that natural being and naturally realize what, for instance, mantra vidya or the knowledge of mantras and resonance are. What are these sciences? You have to realize it within yourself. It's called self-born knowledge. Once you are meditation, the knowledge, this true knowledge, spontaneously arises within you. You just know. You do not channel, you do not get possessed, you do not talk to angels, demons, and different entities. You do not project anything out of self. Because all these are spiritual hallucinations induced by different factors. Traumatic experiences, some kind of stressful experiences for the mind. And the mind creates these escapist experiences or self-delusional experiences because there's no one to tell you what is what. And most of the New Age people and most of these religious people will say that God talks to you. There is no such a thing because there is nothing outside of the self. And once you experience directly your subtle being, your light body, unconditionally, and you reconnect with the ultimate, you are able to realize that with time through refinement. You understand the reason for the embodiment, for the bodily existence, because that is your karma. You're not running away from anything. All these false notions of meditation, of spiritual practices, of all this hallucinatory practices arise from extremely corrupt sense of self, victimized sense of self, which needs to project its power outwards and then receive something as a reflection back to self, because there is still deeply rooted corrupt perception of self, that I am this body, the whole world is against me, or the world is separate from me. The whole creation is separate from me. And so there is something good in this creation, which is for me, and something against me. The power that protects me and power that challenges me. These are all false notions that push people into wrong paths, into self-created traps. As long as we are in a very victimized state, all these corrupt and false spiritual ideas, notions, religions will exist and will continue to corrupt our mind. And unfortunately, since we are not living in any enlightened era, these tendencies will get even worse with time, because the corrupt idea is closer than the actual experience. Many people do not come even across this kind of knowledge or experience, direct experience, and so they cannot relate to it. But if one relates to this and they understand that true meditation is neither visualization, nor it is a guided, some kind of a psychologically well thought story, nor it is tuning into music, nor it is watching TV or using hypnosis, nor it is any kind of hallucination induced by drugs, whether they are natural, psychedelic, or chemical, whether it is drumming, mantra, or any kind of concentration practices. It is all voluntary, forced practice, which most of the time does not lead anywhere. If there is no direct transmission, which instantly give the experience of that which is the natural, which means transmitting the experience, and the person who is the recipient turns within and experience that meditation right away, the natural being right away. Without that experience, one can never know what is what, and one will be eternally confused and going in circles around, falling into traps, coming out of these traps, speculating about what the true meditation and achievement are. Samadhi is not an achievement either. It's our natural being through which we refine our karma, which means our body. We refine ourselves through samadhi because we see that that is our natural being. And then we see also the seeds that create the embodiment. And so we start detangling that karmic yarn. And once we refine the self, the subtle self, this refinement reflects on our body, and the body also starts glowing and being refined. Many people say that through meditation we kill ego, we destroy karma. What does that mean? To kill ego and destroy karma, it means you have to know how to dissolve your body. To destroy karma completely means the dissolution of your body through your powerful radiation of the actual self, the subtle self, which is the reason for the body. But it's not the reason for the body only, but those seeds that are in it are the reasons. So once those impressions are dissolved through the power of true spiritual meditation or samadhi, once those seeds are dissolved, the karma refines, the body glows, it just becomes like a twin to that subtle. And eventually, when the moment comes, one dissolves it. So then it's called no karma anymore. Such achievement is very rare this day and age. For example, if you observe something, you may fall into contemplative practice. Like you just contemplate, or if you go into your past, you contemplate. But contemplation and observation are not meditation. They are still the application of intellectual mind. So contemplation and observation, they are the means which can lead to kind of deepening of self-perception, but they're not fully there. Meditation, because meditation is the being, the absolute blissful, absorbed into self, mind, consciousness, being, which perceives it content, wholesome, natural, yet empty being, empty for the world. In that moment, it is the conscious power does not go outwards. So through meditation, Samadhi, equanimity, they lead, or stillness, cultivation of that stillness. The words are different, but the meaning is the same. All these supposed to lead to refinement. Only blissful emptiness, which is a true meditation, true Samadhi, leads to actual refinement and transformation. Awakening means you awoke to your subtle being. But it doesn't mean anything yet. It is not any achievement. You just awoke to your natural being, which is supposed to be there at all times. But for some reason, you weren't aware of it at this day and age. So you turned back within, and now you experienced it. And so what? You perceive your subtle body, okay, some energy movement. So what is it? Is it anything special? It gives many people impetus to believe that they're great, that they've achieved something, that they're spiritually enlightened being. That's just the beginning. It's not even just the first, very, very first step. You have to understand how you came into creation and how to decreate this experience. And karma is not outside of you. It is this, the very body. The more you refine yourself, the more glowing your karma will be. Healthy, balanced, blissful, emanating. And at some point it will be dissolved if one is on the right path. So the refinement and transformation are the key for spiritual evolution, because that's what makes one realize everything within the self. And that everything means self-born knowledge. When one perceives self as that space, unconditional, blissful, empty space, it's another way to express it, but it may mislead other people. When one perceives that, one realizes how that space vibrates, how it creates the gross emotional reality or any kind of physical reality, how that goes into or comes into existence. So one is not only some kind of a spiritual religious person, one is a spiritual scientist. But one doesn't need any tags. Those people who realize that, they don't need certificates to be a meditation teacher, yoga teacher. They are yoga. They are meditation. They are samadhi. They are absorption. They are knowledge. They are not separate one from the other, because they are all one space of self, which contains it all. Absorption means the space is still. Creation means that space vibrates. So with that, I would like to close this conversation, and I hope it gave some people clarity on what meditation is and what meditation is not. Thank you.